It's always a pleasure to follow the noble Lord Dubs, and I too have visited Calais, and I totally agree that no one would live there if they had a choice. And clearly those people are desperate, and one can understand perhaps they're taking desperate routes. Now, I'm also speaking for the noble Lord Harper, so I can't tell him what a wonderful speech he's just made, but I'm sure it will be excellent. Now, I listened to the two opening speeches with something close to despair, because I sort of get the sense that the Labour government wants to do something right, but I think they have missed opportunities here. And of course, the opposition had 14 years to put this right, and what we actually saw was 14 years of draconian rules and legislation that focused on public attention on stopping the boats, but at the same time it allowed a huge abuse of the system, with billionaires in private jets siphoning off taxpayers' money during austerity and the COVID crisis. And so we had 14 years of a hostile environment and 14 years of draconian rules. And what did we actually get out of it? Rwanda was the most ridiculous threat, and I'm delighted that that has now gone. I mean, certainly in those 14 years, the criminal gangs got richer. The people who were letting out their hotels to refugees were also got richer. But of course, the number of people arriving by small boats has kept on climbing. Under contracts signed by the previous Conservative government, Clear Springs, Mears and Serco made a combined profit of $385 million since 2019. And that's grown because the government deliberately allowed a backlog in asylum claims as part of its failed policy of deterrence. And again, of course, the Bibi Stockholm refugee barge was yet another failed deterrent, with the taxpayer picking up the bill for things like the high-cost docking fees at Portland Port. So, in fact, the last government tried deterrence, and they didn't work. It led to much higher bills for taxpayers, but not to any real advantage. Refugees don't want to live on ships, they don't want to live in hotels, they actually want to become citizens and build new lives for themselves, in the same way that previous waves of immigrants did exactly that. And whether you're descended from the Huguenots or German Jews or Ugandan Asians, or other families that have fled persecution and war to make a good life here for hundreds of years, the vast majority want to contribute to society. They're grateful to be taken in and allowed to live without danger. Most of today's refugees want to earn a living, not rely on handouts, but our government won't let them. Most want to contribute and benefit our economy, but our government makes them a problem instead of part of the solution. The problem is not the refugees, it's the government's failed attempts to deter them, which has not worked and has just made things much worse and created bigger problems. I know that Labour want to sort out the huge delays in processing asylum claims and to cut down on the use of hotels, but it is keeping most of the draconian rules passed by the previous government. Clueless government, actually, it says in my notes. I'm so sorry. Clueless government. Past clueless government. So why is this Labour government retaining provisions of the Illegal Migration Act of 2023 and the Nationality and Borders Act 2022 that, when in opposition, it actually condemned as immoral and destructive of human rights commitments? They even voted alongside the Greens and the Lib Dems to defeat the past government 19 times on those draconian rules that they regarded as unacceptable. So my big question is, why has His Majesty's government failed to make any provision for safe routes to this country for people seeking asylum, including people with close family and other connections here? The government is expecting us to pass a law that says if you arrive here via a small boat or in the back of a lorry, you are not regarded as a person of good character and therefore ineligible to settle. But because there are no additional safe routes set up, the only way you can be a person of good character, according to Labour, is not to arrive here at all. These are not the actions of a government that treats vulnerable people with fairness and decency. And quite honestly, I think it's not a government that deserves to be in power.